Hello, and welcome to Investment Insight, your clear take on the markets. Let's get started. Today, we're really going to dig into three sets of source material, stuff that highlights some massive fundamental shifts happening in global finance right now. Our goal here is to cut through all the jargon, the complex stuff, and give you the essential insights. Basically, what you need to know about where the money's moving. We're looking at some real tectonic plates shifting, where, traditional Wall Street meets the future of digital money.
That's a great way to put it. These sources really capture three huge stories shaping, well, probably the next decade. First up, you got this absolute behemoth, stablecoins, and the high-stakes interest war they've kicked off against the banks.
An interest war, okay.
Yeah. Then second, we'll look at this really historic moment. SWIFT, the backbone of global finance, it's officially merging with blockchain.
Wow, okay, that's big.
Huge. And finally, we'll unpack this strange situation, this paradox in China's solar energy sector. You see these amazing growth numbers.
Right, looks great on the surface.
Exactly. But underneath, profitability is just collapsing. It's a real puzzle.
Okay, let's start with that digital dollar then, specifically stablecoins. You mentioned scale. This isn't just like internet funny money anymore, is it?
No, not at all. The sources make that crystal clear. We're talking national level force here.
So how big are we actually talking? Give us the numbers.
Well, the figures are pretty startling, honestly. As of early October 2025, the total value locked up in stablecoins, it's blown past $308 billion. And you got to remember, this isn't just theoretical value. Most of it is backed by real assets, mostly actually U.S. Treasuries.
Okay, so that's where the power shift really starts to bite, right? These tech companies issuing stablecoins, they're becoming major players in how the U.S. government funds itself.
They really are. Take the biggest issuer, Tether. Estimates put them among the top 20 global holders of U.S. Treasuries.
Top 20, ahead of actual countries.
Ahead of many, many nations, yes. It means Tether holds more U.S. debt than, say, Germany or South Korea, based on some older figures. They're a core part of the demand for Treasury bonds now.
Which is kind of wild. They're embedded in the system.
Deeply embedded.
Yeah.
And it underscores just how crucial they've become to the actual mechanics of U.S. finance.
Now, this whole market didn't just pop up overnight. There was a key piece of regulation, right? The Genius Act, signed by President Trump back in July 2025. What did that law actually do? Because it seems like it flipped a switch for the big guys, but also lit the fuse for this interest war you mentioned.
Yeah, the Genius Act was basically the government giving its stamp of approval. It laid out the rules, how stablecoins should be backed, usually one-to-one with safe assets like cash or treasuries, and how they need to operate. That clarity was the green light for big finance, the JPMorgans and others, to start seriously looking at this space.
But it also tried to protect the banks.
It did, and this is key. The law explicitly prohibited the companies issuing the stablecoins from paying interest directly on those coins.
Okay. So the idea was, let's not have digital cash immediately suck trillions out of regular bank accounts. Keep things stable.
Exactly. Prevent a sudden drain on the traditional banking system, which relies on those deposits for lending.
Sounds like a solid plan for the banks, yet here we are talking about an interest war, so someone found a way around it. A loophole.
A very clever one, it turns out. The law was really specific. It only restricted the issuer of the stablecoin. It didn't say anything explicit about third-party companies, what the law calls digital asset service providers or DASPs, paying rewards or interest.
Gotcha. So not the company that makes the digital dollar, but maybe the company that helps you hold or use it.
Precisely. And PayPal saw that gap. They saw a huge opportunity to grab users and digital cash.
And they jumped right in. What did they do specifically?
They launched a feature for their stablecoin, PYUSD. They started paying rewards, notice the careful wording, not interest, of 3.7% annually.
3.7%, just for holding their stablecoin.
Yep. Just for holding digital cash in your PayPal account, basically. Think about that from your perspective as a consumer. You're getting paid a pretty decent rate, way better than the, 0.nothing% you get on most standard checking accounts.
Yeah, no comparison. That's a massive incentive to just hold your cash digitally with PayPal instead of a traditional bank.
Exactly. And you can see why the banks are freaking out.
I bet. So the pushback from the establishment, the banks, must be intense.
Oh, it is. The American Bankers Association, the ABA, they're lobbying hard in Washington. Their argument is, look, calling it rewards doesn't change what it is. It functions exactly like interest.
Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
It's interest, yeah. And the bank's concern here is, frankly, existential. They're warning this could pull trillions of dollars out of the system.
Trillions. What are the estimates?
Past estimates cited in the source material suggested up to $6.6 trillion could potentially move out of traditional bank deposits if this model takes hold. That threatens their core business, taking deposits and making loans, and they argue it could even destabilize the financial system.
So the bottom line here, coming out of DC, is really critical for everyone listening. The outcome of this fight, PayPal versus the ABA, essentially it determines the future of your savings, in a way.
It really does. Will stablecoins, through loopholes like this, become a major competitor? Maybe even forcing traditional banks to finally offer decent interest on savings.
Or will the regulators step in, close that loophole, and basically keep stablecoins in a more limited box?
That's the multi-trillion-dollar question being fought over right now.
Okay, so while that battle rages over digital cash, there's another huge shift happening on the global stage. Infrastructure. You mentioned SWIFT. Let's talk about that. This is the system banks have used for, 50 years to talk to each other globally?
Exactly. For half a century, SWIFT has been the messaging network. It's how Bank A tells Bank B, hey, expect money from our customer for your customer. It doesn't move the money itself, just the messages.
And for years, they kind of dismissed blockchain, right? Like it was this separate, maybe slightly shady world.
They did. Lots of experiments, pilot programs, but nothing core. Until now. The big news came out of the Sibos 2025 conference, end of September. SWIFT officially announced they're adding a shared ledger to their core technology.
Shared ledger, that's their term for blockchain.
That's right. Basically, a secure, shared, unchangeable record book. This isn't an experiment anymore. It's a fundamental shift in their strategy, and it's backed by a huge consortium, over 30 massive financial players. Think JPMorgan, Bank of America, HSBC, Citigroup. The giants are all in on this.
What's really interesting is which blockchain tech they picked. That sends a huge signal, doesn't it?
A massive signal. Joe Lubin, who founded ConsenSys, a major Ethereum development company, confirmed it publicly in early October. The foundation for this new SWIFT system is an Ethereum Layer 2 solution called Linea.
Okay, unpack that a bit. Ethereum Layer 2, Linea. Why is that significant?
So think of Ethereum as the main highway, super secure, very reliable, but sometimes it gets congested and expensive, Layer 1. A Layer 2, like Linea, is like an express lane built on top of that highway. It uses Ethereum security, but makes transactions much faster and cheaper.
Got it. So choosing Linea means SWIFT gets the security of Ethereum, but the speed they need for global finance.
Exactly. It's a huge vote of confidence from the heart of the traditional financial system in the Ethereum ecosystem's technology and stability.
And their goal here isn't just, faster telegrams between banks, right? It sounds much bigger.
Oh, way bigger. The ambition, according to the sources, is to enable instant, always-on cross-border transactions. Right now, sending money internationally can take days, involve multiple banks, high fees. It's like sending mail, as you said. Slow, clunky, only works during business hours.
Yeah, it's incredibly inefficient.
They want to replace that with something like instant messaging, but for actual money. Moving value across borders, 247 instantly. This new system is designed to handle everything from tokenized deposits, basically digital versions of the money in your bank account, to potentially central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, down the line. It's a complete overhaul of the settlement system.
So for investors listening, this great convergence, old finance meeting new tech seems like a huge area. Where should people be looking if the entire system's plumbing is being rebuilt?
You hit the nail on the head. Focus on the plumbing and the rails. The infrastructure. That's where the real long-term value is likely being built.
Okay, so what does that mean in practice?
Well, first, the foundational layers themselves. That's Ethereum, the base security layer, Layer 1, and solutions built on top, like Linea, Layer 2, which is now validated by SWIFT. They are the settlement layers. Second, you need ways to connect all these different systems, old and new, different blockchains. That's where interoperability protocols come in. Think of things like Chainlink, which already has partnerships with SWIFT in other areas. They act as secure bridges.
Makes sense. Connecting the old world to the new.
And finally, look at platforms focused on tokenization, turning real-world assets into digital tokens on these blockchains, and RegTech, which is regulatory technology. As finance gets more digital and complex, technology that helps firms stay compliant automatically becomes incredibly valuable.
And just quickly, we should probably mention there's a whole geopolitical angle to this too, right? This isn't just about tech.
Absolutely. This upgrade by the US-centric SWIFT alliance isn't happening in a vacuum. You have the China-led Enbridge project, another cross-border payment system using blockchain, involving countries like the UAE, Thailand, Hong Kong.
So it's like a new kind of infrastructure race, a financial Cold War 2.0 playing out on these digital rails.
That's a very accurate way to see it. Control over the future global payment system is definitely a strategic prize.
Which brings us neatly to China for our final topic. But we're shifting from finance infrastructure to energy, specifically solar power.
Yes, and here we find another situation where the headline numbers don't tell the whole story, a real paradox.
Right. The data you see coming out, like from China's National Energy Administration, looks fantastic. New solar installations are up, 35% year over year as of August 2025. It looks like an incredible boom.
It looks like a boom. You see massive solar farms going up everywhere. But if you dig into the sources covering the actual economics on the ground, the profitability for the companies operating those solar farms is collapsing severely.
How bad is it?
In key industrial provinces, like Shandong, for example, the prices solar farms get for their electricity at auction have hit rock bottom. We're talking prices falling below the price of power from traditional coal plants sometimes. Which means building and running a solar farm is becoming a money-losing proposition in some areas.
Why? Why would they basically give away power for free? Or even less than coal? The sun is free, the tech works. Is it another infrastructure problem, like bad plumbing in the market?
That's exactly what it is. The problem isn't the solar panels, it's the outdated market structure they're plugging into. The main culprit identified in the sources is China's old coal prepayment system.
Coal prepayment system, explain that. How does it hurt solar?
Okay, imagine you run a big factory. You need a ton of electricity reliably all year round. Under the system, you're basically forced to sign long-term contracts and prepay for most of your expected power needs from the big established coal power plants.
So you've already bought your power for the year, mostly from coal.
Right, you've locked it in. So later in the day or later in the year, when there's suddenly lots of cheap, abundant solar power available on the grid, you don't have much incentive to buy it. You've already paid for your coal power.
So the cheap solar power has nowhere to go. There are no buyers because they're already committed elsewhere.
Exactly. There's a lack of demand in the spot market where solar power is often sold. And it gets worse. The government actually props up the coal plants further. They still receive capacity subsidies payments just for being available, even if they're not generating power. And those subsidies were even slightly increased in 2025.
So coal gets paid even when idle, while solar struggles to sell its power even when the sun is shining.
Precisely. This systemic bias forces solar farms into what's called curtailment.
Meaning they just have to waste the power, shut down the panels.
Yes, either dump the power, effectively wasting it, or sell it for almost nothing just to get rid of it, which pushes prices down even further for everyone in the solar generation business.
Okay, so for investors looking at China's green energy push, this is critical. You can't just buy Chinese solar as one idea. You have to split the value chain.
Absolutely. You have to be very specific about where you're investing. The sources point to a clear divide. On one side, you have the power plant operators, the companies that own and run the actual solar farms. Right now, that's a high-risk area. Let's call it red light.
Why red light?
They face that triple threat we discussed: falling electricity prices, forced curtailment, and this biased market structure that favors coal. It's a tough spot until the policies change.
But what about the companies making the actual solar panels, the wafers, the polysilicon, the hardware manufacturers?
That's the other side of the coin. The manufacturers, they are a different story. Greenlight. Many of these companies, like Linea or JA Solar, are global technology leaders. They aren't just reliant on the Chinese market dynamics for power generation.
They're
Massively. They're selling their panels and equipment all over the world, to the U.S., to Europe, to Southeast Asia, markets where demand is booming and the economics often make more sense. They're globally competitive and thriving.
So the opportunity is in the tech makers selling globally, not necessarily the power producers stuck in the local market structure.
That's the key takeaway for now. Focus on the globally competitive manufacturers.
And interestingly, these very problems with solar, the fact that it's intermittent, the sun doesn't always shine, that actually creates new opportunities, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The problems create demand for the solvers. Because solar isn't constant, China is pouring massive national investment into two key areas to fix this. First, energy storage systems, ESS. Big batteries, basically, to store solar power when it's abundant and release it when it's needed.
Makes sense. Store the sunshine.
And second, grid infrastructure upgrades, specifically things like UHVDC transmission.
UHVDC, remind us what that is. Ultra high.
ultra-high voltage direct current. Think of it as super efficient, high-capacity electrical highways. China generates a lot of solar power in remote western regions, but the demand is in the industrial cities thousands of miles east. UHVDC is the tech needed to move that power long distances with minimal loss.
So the companies building the giant batteries and the superhighways for electricity, they are the hidden winners here.
They are the essential solvers. They benefit directly from the structural challenges of integrating massive amounts of solar. They are the long-term beneficiaries, regardless of the day-to-day price of solar power itself.
So for investors interested in the solar operators in China, the ones running the farms, what's the signal they need to wait for? What changes things?
The signal has to come from policy, specifically from China's top economic planning body, the NDRC. You'd need to see a clear move to reform or phase out that coal prepayment system, or a significant expansion of functional spot markets for electricity, giving solar a fair chance to compete on price.
Until you see that specific policy shift, the operators remain a risky bet.
Exactly. Wait for that clear signal from the NDRC.
Okay, that was a fantastic deep dive. We covered a lot of ground. From the stablecoin interest war brewing in the U.S. banking system, to Swift finally embracing blockchain with Ethereum's Linea for global payments, and navigating the really complex paradox of China's solar boom versus its profitability bust.
3 really fundamental shifts playing out right now, and maybe we can leave you, the listener, with one final thought to chew on, circling back to that first topic. If, and it's still an if, but if PayPal successfully defends this reward loophole in Washington, if paying 3% or more on digital cash becomes the norm globally, what happens then to the plain old basic non-interest-bearing checking and savings accounts that most traditional banks offer? Does that model even survive long-term?
A profound question challenging the bedrock of consumer banking. Something to think about. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.